In this video, we're going to talk about how to get assault charges dropped or how to just avoid a conviction for an assault charge in Texas, particularly domestic violence charges. My name is Trey Porter. I'm a criminal defense attorney in Texas. We've got a lot of information here in our videos. We've got a ton of information over on the website in our FAQ articles. So I encourage you to check those out. If you're facing prosecution, if you're up against the government, knowledge is power, and I hope that you find the answers that you need. But let's get into it. How do you get an assault case dropped? How do you get a domestic violence case dropped in Texas? We'll take assault first. Number one, just a regular assault case. This is not against someone that you're related to or maybe in a dating relationship. It's very difficult to get those cases dropped. There are a few affirmative defenses, but it's difficult to show the prosecutors the validity of these affirmative defenses just in the pretrial negotiation phases. Sometimes you can use these affirmative defenses, though, very effectively when it comes to going to trial. But what are they? Well, number one, you've got a right to defend yourself. We're all aware of that, right? Self-defense. So if your defense, essentially, to the charges against you for assault are that you were just protecting yourself and that you felt that you were in fear for your safety or even your life, then that's something that can essentially get you out of that assault charge. It can get that assault charge dropped. You can avoid a conviction. Will a prosecutor believe it without having heard testimony or other things like that in the form of a trial? That's a tough one, but it is a possibility. The other thing in Texas is you have a right to defend other people. So if you assaulted someone because they were about to assault or even in the process of assaulting someone else, there is an affirmative defense of others in Texas, and you can use that. Again, how effectively can it be used at the pretrial phase where you're just asking the prosecutor to dismiss your case because you were being the Good Samaritan? It's tough. You have nothing to lose by trying it though, but that's a lot more effective when you're actually in a trial and your attorney, and potentially you if you testify, can be looking at 6 or 12 people in the jury box, and you can really try to level with them at that. You know, there's a human element there where you can make them feel that like, hey man, I'm a good Samaritan. I could have been protecting you or your mother or your daughter or your friend or brother or whatever. So those are things to think about. The other thing that's interesting with assault in Texas is we do have something that's called mutual combat. And this is filed under the category of all the stories you've heard about Texas are true. Mutual combat is something in the law that essentially states that if you are in combat with another adult, obviously they have to be over 18, if you guys are both engaged in that mutually and everybody is fighting fair, right? Nobody has a deadly weapon while the other person is just fighting with their fists, then you can do it. You can fight and you can use the affirmative defense and say, listen, I didn't assault this person. We're two grown-ups and we mutually agreed to combat in the parking lot of our gym because we had a disagreement. I know that that's kind of weird and may even sound silly, but it's true that it's in the law, and it's certainly something to investigate if you think that your set of facts is that or could fit into that, because it would be the pathway to avoid a conviction. So those are for the regular assaults. For the domestic violence, all of those things are in play. All of those things are still true that I just covered. The additional thing that is oftentimes in play is the victim, the person who was assaulted in a domestic violence case, wants to drop the charges. That's just not true. That's a misnomer. That's a misconception. If someone has called the police and said, hey, my wife assaulted me or my husband assaulted me or girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, you don't get to take that back later. Because it's not a civil suit. It's not the wife versus the husband in some type of civil district court. It is the state of Texas versus the person who's accused of doing the assault. And so the state of Texas has taken up that charge. Now, of course, there's a whole rabbit hole to go down when it comes to, was the allegation legitimate? Were there false allegations, false reporting, things like that? Those are potential things that can certainly get you out of it. But the main thing I want to cover with domestic violence is, and this is just a super common question, if the person who complained of being assaulted contacts the government and said, hey, I don't want this to happen anymore, the government doesn't care.